Hello there, everybody, and welcome back to Circling Seattle Sports on Converge Media. Bel Garcia and Charles Hammaker with you as always. I didn't expect to match here today with the Steelheads merchandise, but I can't complain. It's always really good stuff. Not necessarily good for the team on the field, and we'll get into that obviously. But on a happier note, we do have a team headed to a championship to discuss, but we'll get to that when the section arises. So with that being said, we'll jump into our sort of sparse Seahawks news. And Bel, what took place over, I guess technically right now, since we're approaching training camp, it's over at the VMAC. We're not at Lumen Field quite yet.
A couple of Seahawks news here. The Seahawks have hired Amanda Ruller as part of NFL's Bill Walsh Diversity Coaching Fellowship. Just a couple of her history here. She played for Team Canada and was part of the International Federation of American Football. She will help coach running backs for Seattle, and her coaching history. She has history in running backs coach and special teams coach at McMaster University in Ontario, running backs and special teams coach for Team Ontario, a U18 women's tackle football team, had a role with the Saskatchewan Rough Riders, but had to quickly pass due to a job with Seattle.
I want to know what you think about this, because obviously, with these professional sports leagues, not just the NFL, but I guess we can focus on the NFL here, seeing women involved in these roles like this, right? Not just, it's like in a way, a diversity hire, right? And to see someone, with the new fellowship that they've got, the Bill Walsh Diversity Coaching Fellowship, I thought this was really interesting, and I wanted to get your thoughts on it as a woman, just to see this, and someone that obviously running backs are going to be a big part of the Seahawks organization because of who Pete Carroll is and what kind of running offense he runs. But just, I guess, your thoughts on the hire itself.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. It's important for women to continue to get these roles. So you could see women in sports, but maybe not in this position. So that's huge for her. And then, like you said, she's going to have such a key in developing the running backs. So, excuse me. So that's exciting, and I'm completely thrilled for her. And hopefully we just continue to see this more.
Nope. Yeah, I was just curious how you felt about that, because I saw this and I was like, hey, this is a big deal.
It definitely opens a door for more opportunity. So that's exciting.
And to see, like you were saying, what other roles might get filled, by these qualified women across not only hopefully this league, but other ones like we've seen in the MLB, right? With a couple of different women that we've seen coaching minor league baseball or even playing in minor league baseball. Right. So just wanted to touch on that.
On the 20th, this team extended defensive tackle Bryan Mone for a 2-year deal worth $12 million. Mone has appeared in 24 games for Seattle over the last 2 seasons. Did you foresee that happening?
It makes sense. I guess $6 million a year is a little bit interesting to me. Mone has been a guy. I mean, you see 24 games across the last 2 seasons is pretty solid. In terms of, we talk about it all the time, being available, right? I mean, if you're a guy that I can count on as a coach, I can say, hey, I can put you in the lineup when I need to or when I want to. You're going to be at the top of my list when, money time comes around.
Yeah.
But it's the defensive line is definitely an interesting position for Seattle, a position group for Seattle, especially considering that you're going to a 3-4 this season. Nose tacklers are going to be guys that you're going to want to stuff the middle in terms of, especially with 3-4, right? I mean, you've got 2 defensive ends in there that are going to have to kind of be bigger guys to also help stuff the run, with the 2 linebackers that are dropping down to rush the passer. So your 3 guys or 3 down linemen are going to have to really be good at their job at, eating up tackles, eating up blocks. So Monet has been a guy that I think has done that. So extension-wise, yes. Money-wise, interesting, but we'll see how that plays out. Yeah. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world, but it's just like a little bit of an eye pop.
Yeah, sure. Moving on to some league news here. On the 13th, the Dolphins have offered Sean Payton lots of money. Miami offered former Saints head coach a 4-year, $100 million contract to become their head coach. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, there was, I don't know if you saw it, but there was a report too that the Dolphins had offered Tom Brady an ownership stake for him to come and play for them. And there was this whole thing when he retired, right? And I guess offering Payton lots of money too was a big deal, but they've got, I believe, Mike McDaniel now from the 49ers. So just interesting to see how this news continues to play out. You always hear about this stuff. after the fact. So I'm sure, we'll hear, because that was a whole big thing.
Yeah, I did hear the Tom Brady rumors, but I thought they were just rumors. I didn't know that anything had
He
been.
spoke on it, but he can say anything like that right now, but I'm wondering if truth eventually comes out later as that continues on. So I guess we'll hear about that as it moves on.
Moving on here to some more June 13th news. Richard Sherman and Carissa Thompson will be joining Amazon and their broadcast crew. So Amazon's broadcast crew gets bigger as Sherman and Thompson join. Sherman joins the crew, but is holding the door open for an NFL return. Thompson joins to host the streaming service's pregame coverage for Thursday Night Football. That's exciting. I really like Carissa Thompson and her coverage, so I'm excited to see more of it.
With league news, we always keep an eye on stuff like this because, at the end of the day, when we watch these games, these are going to be the people that are going to be on the screen, right? So it's interesting to know what kind of crew that Amazon is building, with Thursday Night Football being something that doesn't happen too late into the season, and it's just these one game a week kind of thing. So it's interesting to see what kind of money that Amazon's putting into their own crew.
Do you think that Sherman finds a position for the NFL before broadcasting?
Before the season starts?
Yeah.
I wouldn't put it out of the realm of possibility. He was a guy that, the Buccaneers picked him up, right? And they were a team that's been in contention since they've had Tom Brady. So if a team like that is picking him up and kicking the tires and he gets minutes for them, I wouldn't put it out of the realm of possibility that someone might kick the tires on him.
I would wonder how much he also is hoping for as far as compensation. So that would probably have something to play with in there. So moving on to some June 14th news. There's urgency from Carolina's side to get a trade done for Baker Mayfield. So Mayfield might be headed to Carolina. His salary is currently the biggest hurdle. Well, that was they promised quite a bit of money and they don't want to. People don't want to take that on, right?
Cleveland wants some other team to take the majority of his contract, and I just don't imagine that happening. And then there was these reports. It's very wishy-washy because the Panthers reportedly had no interest in him, and now they say that there's urgency on it and that they don't want to send Sam Darnold in a trade. They want both of them on the roster at the same time. So I would just let them figure that out over there, and let's have us not be involved in anything related to Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where he ends up for sure, though. The NBC is replacing Drew Brees after he stepped down from broadcasting. So they announced that they have hired former Dallas Cowboys head coach Jason Garrett as a Football Night in America analyst. And moving on to June 15th here, Minkah Fitzpatrick signs a record extension with the Steelers. The All-Pro safety becomes the highest paid at his position in NFL history, signing a 4-year, $73.6 million deal. Also happening in the NFL, the players could possibly have 2 bye weeks. The 49ers tight end George Kittle advocates for the league to have more rest for players during the season. Now, as a fan, I hate bye weeks. I hate when my team comes around on a bye week, but I can understand how that could help an athlete. Do you think they would extend the season and add a bye week?
I wouldn't put it out. I just same with the Sherman news. I wouldn't put it out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah.
Knowing that, look at the Seahawks in this regard, right? We look at it, in terms of the rest of these players get, the Thursday Night Football games have put a toll on Seahawks players, and just historically. If you want to go look it up, and we look at, like the Richard Sherman news, I believe his injury was on a Thursday night.
Yeah.
Same thing with Cam Chancellor. I believe when they were both down in Arizona. That's a whole different conversation. But yeah, I think it makes sense if you extend the season a game. It's like there's no roster that goes through the normal 16-game season completely healthy. That's not something that happens due to the nature of the sport. So combine the nature of the sport with now the length that you have the season at, I don't think two bye weeks is completely outlandish.
Yeah.
Do I think the NFL will bite? That's where it gets murky, and that's where I put some doubt on it.
It could be the balance to adding that additional game, though, and to keep the athletes happy and rested. I could see it maybe going through, but yeah. Moving on to some more Deshaun Watson news. On the 16th, it was announced that the NFLPA will reportedly defend Deshaun Watson. The players' union will argue that the punishment that Watson is facing is not the same as the NFL owners during their off-field scandals. Nothing more need be said. Moving on to some more news here. Watson may get season ban. The NFL plans to argue for significant suspension of Browns QB over alleged sexual assault and misconduct. So as we find out what that punishment is for Deshaun Watson or more news comes available, of course, we will report it.